This is the Valley View News, and these are today's headlines. Runners hit the streets to raise awareness for autism. Plus, CSUN's community is finding a way to live with bees. And thousands flood Hollywood for the Armenian genocide protest.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Zach Ferber.
And I'm Scott Gierman. Breaking news from Charlotte, North Carolina. A suspect is in custody after killing 2 students and leaving 4 others injured at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. The school put out a tweet this afternoon telling students to secure themselves. The incident started about 5:45 this evening Eastern Time. The school remains on lockdown. We have breaking news in Venezuela. Opposition leader Juan Guaido has called for an uprising to overthrow the government.
Let's go to Luis Zuniga in the Digital Media Center for more.
Venezuela's opposition leader, Juan Guaido, says Operation Liberty has started. Guaido took to the streets with a small army of heavily armed troops today in Caracas. The move comes in an attempt to lead an uprising against President Nicolás Maduro. Guaido's Washington representatives, Carlos Vecchio, says the move aims to restore democracy in Venezuela.
He has called the military institution to support the Venezuelan people on the streets and to restore our democracy in our country, and also to support the full implementation of the Constitution approved by the people in 1999. This is only the beginning.
Maduro, who many have labeled a dictator, says his military commanders have sworn their loyalty. Hundreds of demonstrators have taken to the streets of Caracas. Footage shows military vehicles appearing to run over several protesters, followed by protesters lighting a vehicle on fire. More than 50 people have been injured so far, many shot with rubber bullets. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric says the Secretary General is reaching out to both sides.
We are also, the United Nations is also reaching out to the parties. The Secretary General urges all sides to exercise maximum restraint, and he appeals to all stakeholders to avoid any violence and take immediate steps to restore calm.
Maduro's government has blocked Western media from broadcasting. President Trump tweeted he is monitoring the situation closely. We'll have more international news later. Now back to you in the studio.
An Army vet has been arrested on domestic terrorism charges. The FBI and the Los Angeles Police Department say Reseda resident Mark Steven Domingo planned a terrorist charge on the Santa Monica Pier and on a white supremacist rally. Officials say Domingo wanted to commit mass murder using an improvised explosive device with several hundred 3-inch nails to puncture human organs. U.S. Attorney for California's Central District, Nick Hanna, says he planned other attacks.
The complaint charges Mark Steven Domingo, a 26-year-old resident of Reseda, with a felony offense of providing and attempting to provide material support to terrorists.
Domingo is a recent convert to Islam.
Some bees have found a new home at CSUN. In the meantime, the campus has learned a little bit about how important the insects are. Valley View News reporter Leslie Estrada has the latest.
Swarms of bees invaded CSUN's campus a few days ago. The small visitors caused disruption and confusion among faculty and students.
A whole wasp nest forming up on our balcony, and we requested for maintenance.
CSUN maintenance worker Ruben Lopez says his office responded for assistance as soon as they heard about the bees. The priority was to ensure the safety of faculty and students.
Most of the time, the way they are right there, they're fine. You know, as long as nobody does anything to disturb them, it should be fine.
But it's crucial to know how important bees are for the planet. Does killing bees hurt the Earth's ecosystem? IPBES, which researches bees, says the planet needs bees to pollinate plants. Pollination helps create crops for food production.
We should care for bees because they do take a huge part in our environment.
In the past few years, CSUN has worked to become more bee-friendly. Helping bees helps the environment.
We've been awarded the Campus Bee USA. We have our flag banner at Baramian Hall.
If bees were to be extinct, experts say human life would not last for more than 2 years. In Northridge, I am Leslie Estrada, Valley View News.
Each year, thousands of Angelenos march to commemorate the anniversary of the Armenian Genocide. Valley View News reporter Monica Villacorta attended this year's march and has this report.
Thousands marched through Hollywood to support the official recognition of the Armenian Genocide. Part of the rally took place in front of the Turkish consulate. The Armenian Genocide Committee and about 20 other organizations sponsored the March for Justice. April 24th marked the 104th anniversary.
It's a demand for recognition by the American government, by the Turkish government, and real measurable justice, reparations, and restoring lands and assets.
In 1915, 1.5 million Armenians were killed during Turkey's Ottoman Empire. The Turkish government disputes that. Marchers want countries to recognize the deaths as a genocide, most importantly, Turkey. In the U.S., 49 states recognize the genocide. President Trump released a statement honoring the deaths, but he didn't call it a genocide.
We use double standards. Certain cases are genocide, certain cases are not termed as genocide. They term by any other name but genocide because it serves their purposes.
Census figures show that more than 200,000 Armenians live in LA. It's the largest Armenian population outside of Armenia. Each year, Armenian Americans have called on the U.S. to formally recognize the genocide. Many of the marchers come each year just to remember family members who survived and died.
I'm here just to honor my grandfather, that I know he lost 4 kids back then, and they all was little kids.
Turkey says what happened in 1915 was part of the chaos of war, not a genocide. But more countries are recognizing it as a genocide, while others just call it an atrocity.
I do feel it's been gaining more momentum. I do feel more people in power, whether it's politicians or even celebrities, are using their voice for good and to raise awareness of the Armenian genocide.
LAUSD passed a resolution granting recognition to the Armenian genocide. 28 countries already recognize the genocide, although the U.S. is not one of them. Reporting from Los Angeles, this is Monica Villacorta.
Climate change and how to stop it. That's the subject under discussion all over the country, from the campaign trail to Congress to the United Nations. Valley View's Ethan Hansen is standing by live to tell us what's happening in Los Angeles to address the issue.
Mayor Garcetti has unveiled his own version of the Green New Deal to fight climate change here in Los Angeles. The plan calls for aggressive environmental goals. This includes a mandate that every building be emission-free by 2050, including homes and businesses. Garcetti wants the city to operate with a zero-carbon electricity grid. He is also hoping his Green New Deal will create 400,000 jobs and plant 90,000 trees. CSUN students agree that fighting climate change is important.
Absolutely, it's very real, and I think that we need to pay more attention to it and that we need to do more to try to stop it from happening. I mean, it's happening really rapidly.
But critics say the plan isn't bold enough, and too many cars will continue to flood the streets of Los Angeles. From Northridge, I'm Ethan Hansen for Valley View News. Back to you, Scott.
LA health officials have confirmed the 6th case of measles a week after more than 700 people were quarantined at 2 Los Angeles universities. The 6th patient to contract measles was exposed to the disease while traveling internationally. Health officials found no connection between the 6th patient and the previous cases announced earlier this month. 27 people at UCLA and 385 at Cal State LA have been cleared. UCLA students don't seem too worried about catching the disease.
I don't feel unsafe on campus, but I think it's pretty random how it actually happened here at one of the safest places on the planet.
According to the CDC, 1 in 10 children die every year from the measles. Most of the people who have contracted the disease were not vaccinated.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer met with President Trump this morning to talk about an infrastructure plan. Both parties agreed to put $2 trillion towards rebuilding roads, bridges, water, and sewer systems, and Pelosi called the meeting very positive.
So this is a collaborative effort, and we hope it will be very bipartisan.
More meetings are expected in the next few months.
President Trump is suing two banks to keep them from releasing his financial records to Congress. New York Democrat Hakeem Jeffries says the lawsuit has no basis.
We are going to continue to proceed in a careful and deliberate fashion, consistent with our constitutional responsibility to do oversight.
Trump, his three oldest children, and his companies sued to keep Deutsche Bank and Capital One from responding to congressional subpoenas in the investigation into possible money laundering and Trump's ties to Russia. The lawsuit says investigations amount to harassment and overreach.
President Trump is proposing a fee for people applying for asylum. This is the president's latest proposal to deal with thousands of Central American immigrants arriving at the southern border. Trump says he'll give officials 90 days to come up with a plan so asylum applications get a decision within 6 months.
Remember, every asylum seeker presents that claim, and then the claim of credible fear, the claim of seeking credible asylum, those all need to be processed, which is how we got to this point in the first place, because we have a couple of judges apparently in charge of immigration policy for an entire country, even though Congress can step in the breach, do their job, and actually make laws.
Arrests along the southern border have hit a 12-year high, with more than 100,000 arrests and denial of entry in March. At the moment, the fee would not exceed the cost of processing an application, but a dollar amount has not been given. LA is going to spend more money on the Olympics, and Sports Illustrated has a new face.
Here's Valley View's Monica Campos with entertainment news.
LA's budget for the Olympics is going way up. 2028 committee members say they want to spend nearly $7 billion on the games instead of $5.3 billion. The higher price tag takes into account inflation over the next decade. The committee's plan relies heavily on current facilities, arenas, and stadiums, and the new football stadium and entertainment center in Inglewood. This year's Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue will be unlike any other. It will be the first to feature a model dressed conservatively in a hijab and a burkini. The full coverage ensemble will be worn by a Somali-American Muslim woman, only exposing her hands, feet, and face. It's the first time a model will appear on the cover of a major American magazine wearing a hijab. Muggles, hold on tight, because the third Fantastic Beast will be hitting the big screens. Fantastic Beasts 3 is planned to be a part of a 5-film series, and the whimsical production is expected to begin in spring 2020. Expect to see a lot of Dumbledore in his quest to becoming headmaster of Hogwarts. Fantastic Beasts comes out November 12, 2020. An exhibit at LA's Peterson Automotive Museum has car enthusiasts revving their engines. Valley View's car guide Nathan Espinoza works for a media company with an association to the museum. He has the report on the exhibit.
LA's Peterson Automotive Museum has a new exhibit showing pedigree cars. Collector Bruce Meyer has a massive stock of all kinds of cars. His cars at the Peterson today are part of his collection called Winning Numbers, the first, the fastest, the famous. Every car on display has a history of winning or being the first of its kind.
Bruce Meyer, who all the cars in this exhibit belong to Bruce, was one of the founding members of the Peterson. And Bruce just so happens to be kind of the Energizer Bunny for car enthusiasm.
Meyer's collection features actual race cars like this 1957 Ferrari Testarossa, the winningest dragster in history. Here's his 1979 Le Mans winning Porsche 937. VIP guests were impressed, to say the least.
It's history. You have to keep a historical record of what you do.
The Bizzarini, the Belly Tank, it's hard to pick. They're all really, really nice cars.
Whether you're an auto enthusiast or you just like cars a little bit, Bruce Meyer's collection here at the Peterson Automotive Museum has a little bit of everything for everyone. The exhibit runs till January 19, 2020. For Valley View News, I'm Nathan Espinosa.
That's all your entertainment news. Back to you guys.
More to come on Valley View News. Japan's emperor is doing something that hasn't happened in 200 years.
And 13 reasons why may be the cause of the suicide rate increase.
maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made home ownership happen. Homeschooling yourself on loans, beefing up your credit score.
So I'm pre-approved.
You were like, yes! Sorry. Color coding listings, ticking boxes, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. Home sweet home. You aced house hunting. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
When you're running your own business and taking care of your disabled brother, you tend to learn about responsibility pretty quickly.
Let's get more on international news.
Here's Luis Zuniga in our Digital Media Center with the latest.
Japan's Emperor Akihito has renounced his throne after 30 years in Tokyo. Akihiro's son, Prince Naruhito, will be inaugurated as the 126th emperor tomorrow and will usher in the Reiwa era. The 85-year-old emperor says serious health conditions like pancreatic cancer and heart problems convinced him it was time to step down. Emperor Akihito has been emperor since 1989. ISIS leader Abu Bakr Baghdadi resurfaces in a new video. Baghdadi has not been seen since 2014. In the recent video, he praised the bombing in Sri Lanka that killed more than 250 people on Easter Sunday. U.S. military and Iraqi officials say about 30,000 ISIS troops remain in Iraq and Syria, although the militant group has lost most of its territory. Meanwhile, an international aid organization is urging Iraq to document 45,000 children born in ISIS territory and not leave them without any citizenship. Save the Children, the international charity helping thousands of survivors in the aftermath of the Mozambique cyclone, is running out of money. The area has been hit with 2 massive storms in the last month that have caused an estimated $1 billion in damage and over 750 lives lost. A statement from Save the Children called the conditions devastating and life-altering. They are asking donors to dig deep for any help. That is all for international news. Now back to you in the studio.
Now let's get the latest in health news with Tia Dunbar.
Thank you, Zach. A study conducted by the CSU system in 2018 says students who face food insecurity face mental and physical health problems. The U.S. Department of Agriculture defines food insecurity as not having access to enough food to live an active and healthy lifestyle. Valley View News reporter Alexandria Mares has more.
A study by the CSU system shows that 41% of college students experience food insecurity. The State Department of Public Social Services declared May as Cal Fresh Awareness Month. Multiple efforts are put into reducing hunger while also promoting good nutrition.
CalFresh is formerly known as food stamps, so we're trying to make them aware if they do qualify for the program that they can take an application. We can do an application right on site.
MEND, which stands for Meet Each Need with Dignity, is a nonprofit organization. It's listed on CSUN's Food Resource webpage. Among its services are food and clothing banks and vision care. The food bank's general manager, Adam Brooks, says anyone is welcome to come to the center in Pacoima for more information.
We invite them to come in once a month to receive this little bit of extra help, and at the same time we would want to inquire about other things that they might need.
CSUN's Women's Research and Resource Center started its food and toiletry pantry 2 years ago. It's supported by the College of Humanities and associated students. Graduate intern Bianca Orozco says the center is open to all CSUN students and alumni.
Come in and just take what it is that they need. Usually it's about a week's worth of stuff. We do provide bags sometimes.
The CSU study recommends using CalFresh enrollment and food pantries as a way to prevent food insecurity. In Northridge, I'm Alexandria Modis, Valley View News.
The National Institute of Mental Health says suicides of young people have spiked since the release of the Netflix show 13 Reasons Why. The show's main character takes her own life at the end of the first season. Suicides among 10 to 17-year-olds went up almost 30% in the month following the show's release in 2017. Over 3,000 people came together for the annual Ought to Run event to support children and adults affected by autism. Here's Valley View's Sinclair Hambrick with that story.
April was Autism Awareness Month. The Autism Society of Ventura County hosted its annual Ought to Run event. It was held April 29th at Cal State University Channel Islands. More than 3,000 people participated to help raise awareness and acceptance of autism in children and adults.
To allow people to understand that this is an everyday cause in life and people live normal lives with having autism. You know, my brother's autistic and, I would do anything for him.
The Ought to Run had a 15K superhero race and a 1K fun run. They also had a 10K and a 5K. Volunteers handed out water and snacks to runners once they crossed the finish line. The donations made by 2,300 runners will help support local children who are on the autism spectrum and their families.
There's a lot of people who are here to show people that there's a lot of help. And I think if you don't have knowledge of help, it's hard to get it.
The races showed people how easy it is to get access to the resources they need.
It was a very humbling experience to see everybody coming together and having a great day.
The CDC determined that 1 in 59 children will be diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder. In Camarillo, I'm Sinclair Hambrick with Valley View News.
The United Nations says antibiotics are becoming too weak to fight against common deadly diseases. UN researchers say people overexposed to antibiotics through taking prescription drugs and eating treated meat are more resistant to fatal germs. The CDC says 23,000 Americans die every year from drug-resistant infections. The UN report says wealthier nations should help poor countries improve public hygiene and get better access to vaccines and properly manufactured antibiotics. That's all for Health News. Back to you guys.
Coming up on Valley View News, Spotify is benefiting from a bundle bond with Hulu.
And Mark Zuckerberg wants to slide into your DMs. Stay with us.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Pacha. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? Well, now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Eva Marie smoked 12,000 packs of cigarettes over 15 years. She quit, and now there's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. No matter how much you smoked, early detection could save you. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I brought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
Let's get the latest in social media, tech, and business news.
Here's Luisa Rodriguez.
Spotify has taken over the streaming race. The music site says it surpassed 100 million subscribers. Some CSUN students say they do prefer Spotify over Apple Music.
So we're not trying to pay like $10 every month, unlike Apple Music where you pay $10 every month.
It's better than Apple Music, and for me it's just easier to use, and I just don't really like the setup of the layout of Apple Music.
After adding more perks with no price increase, the service has gained double the subscribers than competitor Apple has. Spotify predicts it will double the number of subscribers by the end of the year. Another day, another airline outage. Computer systems for Alaska Airlines, American Airlines, and JetBlue were all down for the second time this month. Sabre, the technology system used by all three airlines, gave travelers a delay of 45 minutes without being able to check into scheduled flights. Sri Lanka president has lifted the nation's social media ban. The government wants people to use social media responsibly. The shutdown was put in place after the Easter suicide bombing to prevent the spread of misinformation. Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp were affected. Sri Lanka government restricted the use of Facebook last year because it said it encouraged anti-Muslim riots and lynching. It's unclear if the ban was effective. Mark Zuckerberg says he has a new privacy-focused vision.
You know, in all of our lives, we have our public spaces, like our town squares, and we have our private spaces, like our living rooms. And in our digital lives, we also need both public and private spaces.
Facebook has faced criticism from regulators and users over recent hackings and for allowing a live stream of the mass shooting in New Zealand in March. Zuckerberg says he plans to emphasize private messages and use artificial intelligence. He says Facebook's focus on private communication will build over the next 5 years. Instagram is bringing to life the stories of Holocaust survivors. Instagram page Eve.Stories is introducing people to the true tales of a 13-year-old Jewish victim. The project producer says they hope to bring the memory of the Holocaust directly to the younger generation via social media. The Hollywood-style film will begin streaming on the account on Wednesday. That's it for social media, tech, and business news. Zach and Scott, back to you.
The San Diego Zoo has closed its panda habitat because the bears are going back to China. Some visitors got one last chance to see them this week before they left. Bai Yun and her son Xiao Li Wu have been on loan to the zoo for 30 years. The partnership helped China increase its panda population by more than 2,000 bears.
Today is International Jazz Day. More than 24 world-renowned artists met in St. Petersburg, Russia, to participate in a global concert. The event celebrates jazz's influence on promoting peace and intercultural dialogue between people from more than 195 countries.
That's all for us at Valley View News. Thank you for watching. I'm Zach Ferber.
And I'm Scott Gierman. For news any time of the day, go to our website, sundial.csun.edu. See you next week.